I was going to start and jump into building a executive coaching company with both feet. I've watched a number of folks build in public. Alex Lawrence is a great entrepreneur here that's been doing it with this company, EV Auto. And, I'll put up my slides, but, one of the first people to jump in and say, hey, you should come build some of that stuff here was Spencer and Taylor. So Taylor said, come on, hop in, share it with people. So I really appreciate these guys giving me the chance to share the work that I've been doing for the last decade and have an opportunity to do it. So let's see if I can't find my screen to share. It's in presentation mode. I tested this right before. Share screen. Let's go desktop one. All right, you guys all see that?
Yep, good.
Perfect. So I'm still on the fence with the name. The idea is a lot of people call me and text me. I've been doing this work for a long time in the community as a coach, and I've owned co-working spaces and run incubators, and I've been a venture capitalist. And people call me all the time and they say, hey, I'm stuck. I need money. I've got this problem, right? So I get calls and texts, and a lot of the work I do is helping people get unstuck. So that's where this concept came from. I'm still testing whether it's a good brand. I don't think it is, but you got to start somewhere, right? So getting unstuck and unstucker is where I started. And the idea is, right, like why should I be a coach? Why should anybody care? Idea ship, investable, 1 million cups, Larry H. Miller Group. So I've been startups to 6 billion in revenue companies, made 55 investments in 2 funds. I can talk about all sorts of fancy stuff that could convince you that I know what I'm talking about. But lots of people do that, right? So I think there's just as many reasons that come up that are real that are reasons that maybe you shouldn't believe me, right? So sometimes coaching isn't about being the expert, it isn't really about what I know and what my experience is. It's because I've been through some hard stuff too, right? So like this last year, I won 2 lawsuits, but I lost a lot of money. So like those didn't feel so great. I've got failed businesses. I've been in marriage therapy on and off over the years from working too much and being an entrepreneur and stretching us, right? It's like I still run an event and I do the grunt work and set us up and pay for the coffee. So, coaching isn't about like, look at me, I'm so awesome. The foundation of coaching is having somebody that shows up for you. And a lot of people, from the feedback I've been doing, they aren't getting coaching. So if anybody's up for it, we're going to try a live coaching session here. So think about who wants to volunteer. If anybody, we can do it, like everybody can just do it for themselves. But if somebody's up for jumping in and going with me, that would be cool. That's part of the test here. But the answer is like, to start off with, is like, nobody needs a coach, right? You can stick kids out and they play, and you tell them some basic rules. You give them a can. When I was a kid, you'd kick the can around. Like, you didn't really need a ton of rules. You can go have a lot of fun, right? So why don't you need a coach? Why do most people not need a coach? Because they're happy with where they're at. So if anybody's had a coach, you can put in the comments like, yeah, I've used a coach, I want a coach, whatever that case may be. But from my polling, like 90% of people haven't worked with an executive coach or found a coach, mostly because they don't feel like they need one. And I agree. A lot of people don't need a coach if they're happy with where they're at. But I get calls, I get texts, and I get people most days, every day saying, hey, I'm trying to change my career. I'm trying to grow to a certain level. I'm trying to get more funding. I'm trying to balance my relationship with my family, right? And this little 2x2 matrix, I think, explains a lot of what coaching is and what it's not, right? Is like the consultant, if you wear the consultant hat, it looks like giving you advice, telling you what to do, right? It's like, hey, here's how you fix your problem. A mentor is like, hey, here's what worked for me. You should do the same thing. You know, a therapist, if you use one or know about them, they say, well, what happened? Let's talk about it. Like, let's go revisit the past, right? And the difference in what the coach is in the top right corner is, where are you? Where are you going? And why do you want to get there? And what's holding you back? So it's still asking questions, but very kind of present and future focused. So today's the whole idea is to help you, like if you can't afford a coach, but you're feeling stuck, give you just a basic framework that whether you work with a coach or yourself, you can partner up with people here. You can use your spouse. It's not a super complicated framework, but everybody can do it. It doesn't have to cost money, but it can be a really powerful way to help get you moving and get you unstuck. So the biggest question for all of you, if anybody wants to volunteer for this part, are you where you want to be? Does anybody have anything they're striving for? Is anybody feeling stuck? Does anybody have something that feels tough? You can drop it in comments. You can chime in.
This is the vulnerable part.
I have an example. I'll
Yeah,
throw it
let's
out
go.
there. I don't know whether
Let's
it's what you want.
Yeah.
So I am working on developing a new app, trying to get it out. And in a traditional developer mindset, I keep wanting to add more stuff to it before it actually get right. But I know, no, just stop and get it out as it is and get some feedback, right? So, but I keep looking at it going, yeah, but if I do it right now, it's got a big gaping hole over there. So I struggle with that. Is that something that you
Totally.
for?
Yeah, I hear that all the time. You would not be the first person that said, hey, I've got something. I've got an app, but we love to tinker, like we like to do the things we're comfortable with, right? So here's the framework for everybody. And you can write stuff down, you can take your own stuff and keep it to yourself and you work with yourself through it. But this is how you can coach yourself, right? Whether you work with a coach or do it with yourself, do it with a friend, here's the framework. So to get unstuck with coaching, first you map, second you measure, third you manage, and mindset is sort of wrapped in. I haven't had like a real great way of putting it out there. So the first thing we're going to do is with David, let's give it a shot. Let's go with the app. Feeling a little stuck on not getting it out, wanting to tinker on it all the time. So for micro coaching and just like 3 minutes here, we're going to do it real quick and rapid fire. So don't think too much about it, David. All right.
Let's go.
First thing we do for anybody that needs to get into the mindset, right? It's like sometimes being stuck is like it's a neurological, biological thing. Sometimes we got to stand up. Sometimes listening to music, moving, taking some deep breaths. So David, just do me a favor, take 3 big deep breaths. That's one. Let's do 2 more. There you go. Last one. Right. So David's got more oxygen in his blood. He's got more norepinephrine in his brain. So sometimes we don't even think about it, right? If we just stand up, take a walk around the block, we can do that. So David, tell me one thing that you're really grateful for about your app, something that you're excited about, something that feels good.
Oh, I think it'll help people. And I like it. It's not just about making money. It's more about, it's primarily about helping people.
Okay. And what's one complaint you have about it? What's something that's hard or that's
I
bugging
know
you, that's weighing you down?
technological changes. I know that I'm going to have to make a mobile version of it. I know I'm going to have to do other versions of it. And so, do I go to market with just a web version right now versus do I wait till I get the whole complement of platforms, let's say?
Yeah, so that's great. So knowing that it can help people if it's out there, but having all this fear and anxiety and angst of how rapid and how quickly things are changing, right?
Fear and anxiety. There's a better example. Maybe I go release it and it doesn't do anything. So maybe I should just keep working on it, make it better so I reduce that risk
nobody can reject you if you don't
That's
put
right.
it out there, right?
That's right.
Okay, so now that we're in this mindset, we've got but we know we can help people. You're excited about it. So there's both, you know, where you're kind of at, right? So the next step in this is a map. So a map, you need two things to make it useful. You need to know where you are and where you want to go.
Mhm.
So David, and you know where you are today, you know how much development. So like in one sentence, like how close is the app? Like what do you have going on with it?
So I did this actually yesterday or the day before. I said, okay, given what I've got, what do I need? And made a list of 8 things that I want to have done before it should go out.
Perfect. So now let's talk about the future. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. What's a good time frame? And like, what are you shooting for of those 7 things? Like, how many actually have to be done before it goes out?
I think these are all must-haves. So I think they all have to get in. They're critical.
How long will it take you to get there?
I hate estimating. I don't believe software estimation works, so I don't do it. So
Okay.
what I would tell you is, I think what I need to do is prioritize these and knock each one of them out and track them. That's what I do this, and then I walk away from it, right? And I get off and I get into the code and I get interested and I go do other things. Like, no, I got to bring myself back. What's the second thing I got to do now?
Okay. So totally get that. And I can subscribe to that. So tell me what's working about that process for you. Prioritizing, having 7 things, like what works about that?
I think it just helps focus the work and give it direction so that instead of just playing with new tech, you're actually working toward a final goal.
Okay. And what's not working about it?
I think that I don't pay attention to it as often as I need to. So
Okay.
I pop up occasionally and do it. And then I get back down to the details and forget where I'm at.
That's great. And a common challenge. So what do you want to be different? Is it the focus that you want to be different? You want to move faster? Like what are the things that you would need to do?
Yeah, moving faster, of course, would be one. But I think what I really want to do that's different is change this mindset from being technologically focused and feature focused to being more marketing and product focused and say, no, just get the damn thing out and do
Perfect.
it. Okay.
So if you want to change it to a more marketing and getting it out focus, let's talk about how you measure that, right? So this is where a lot of people start with the New Year's resolution. I don't know if anybody here in the chat online who made a goal recently. January, it's a good time where everybody said, hey, I'm going to lose some weight. You might have even set a specific goal that you can measure, but a lot of people don't have a system and they're not really clear about it. So David, if we were to measure this and about getting it out, like how important is this for you on a scale of 1 to 10 to get this thing out?
Yeah, it's quite important. It's critical.
Yeah, pick a number. What numbers feels right for you?
9.
Okay, 9's pretty important. So what activities do you think you could do more or less of that would help you get this thing out?
Stop reading the news in the morning, man.
Okay.
It's just a deep hole.
Yeah. So there's 2 ways we can measure things. One is with a leading indicator and one's with a lagging indicator. So when we stop doing things or start doing things, those are often our leading indicators, right? So like as an example of losing weight, you might work out more, you might eat less. Those are leading indicators. And then a lagging indicator is when you get on the scale, you can't do anything between what you did and when you get on the scale. When you get on the scale, that's how much weight you lost, right? So that's a lagging indicator and as a result. So oftentimes a lot of us focus on the result, but we don't focus on what we need to do. You picked a leading indicator, which is, hey, I'm going to stop reading the news. Okay, so we've got one leading indicator. What would be your lagging indicator? Like, how would somebody look up at the scoreboard to know David's winning besides they saw check marks on he didn't read the news today? What else would need to happen?
Be checking off these things that need to get done. Oh,
Would that be based on number of hours you put in, number of meetings you have? Like, what's something tangible you could measure that would maybe give you positive indication you're heading in the right direction?
yeah, for me, it's completion, and it's in the system. It's in the app. It's been released.
Okay. So you could write these things down. You could make yourself a chart, right?
Yep.
You could say, day one, did I read the news?
Hmm.
Did I check off a milestone, right? Did I get this thing in? You know, that one's a little bit harder. You might consider breaking into smaller increments, like how many hours you put in, right? Like if you put in enough hours, eventually it'll get done. You might have a better way to measure it, but sometimes you just got to start and then you'll find out the next best thing. Okay. And then our last step is managing it, right? So how committed are you to getting this done? It's really important, we said on it's a 9.
Yeah.
How important is it compared to the news or?
Oh, I mean, it's professionally, it's at the top of the list, right? So,
Okay.
mhm.
So scale of 1 to 10.
I'll call it a 9 again. Yeah.
Okay. So 2 9s. This is pretty important and you're super committed to it. So the hard part is tomorrow, like you'll be in a different space and you'll probably still want to watch the news because like that's what you're used to doing. So what's the one thing you can do tomorrow that will move this forward and that you can commit to yourself that you're heading in the right direction?
Yeah, I think I see where you're going with this. I mean, I know what I need to go do tomorrow. I think in my case, I can manage and I can map. What I don't do is go back and continually measure. And I think that's my gap.
Yep. And some people, we all have them in different spots, right? So the manage and measure loop are part of the same, right? It's like if you do the one thing each day, yours might be 2. One is like you've got a not doing, you're not gonna read the news. And then you've got one thing to actually move it forward as well, right? So by not reading the news, you've got more space for yourself. And then what's that thing? I'm gonna put an hour of development time in because I didn't read the news for an hour.
Makes sense.
So if you measure those things and you check back and each day, right? Like we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to win every day, right? We can give ourselves some grace and some latitude. Like nobody's perfect. We all have our up and down days, right? You don't need a coach. Sometimes it's easier with a partner, with a spouse, with somebody. This is why I love coaching. It's because, when you've got partners or yourself, like we can be really hard on ourselves and we can get lost and forget that, like it's okay to be sick or that something big happened and you fell down. But guess what? Tomorrow's a new day and you can recommit each day to doing new stuff. And if it's important to you, right, write it down. Another really good secret is to share it with people, right? So like David, thank you for volunteering because you just told a bunch of people you're not going to read the news and you're going to work on this.
I have no
but
shame.
but more importantly is to maybe share it with people in your life so that they can help hold you accountable, right? You don't need me like having a coach. Like if we work together, I'd get to hold you accountable, but you don't have to, especially right if budget's tight, especially for startups. It's really hard to do. And so if you're going to coach yourself, like it's great. Make sure to share it. You can share it on social media. You can share it with a partner, right? Make a plan. Hey, you can post it out there. Hey, I'm not going to read the news today and I'm going to work on this for an hour and check in with people. I did the same thing with this coaching thing. This is how I got here today, which is I said, hey, I'm going to do a thing. And Taylor and Spencer are like, yes, you are. We're going to hold you accountable. Send us your slides. So it can work for you guys too. And that's essentially what the coaching process is, right? So you can map, measure, and manage your way to making improvements and getting unstuck.
Rob, I love thanks for going through. I always like real scenarios. So thanks, David, for jumping in and being vulnerable there too. I especially liked, Rob, that you started your presentation on coaching with all the reasons why people don't need to be coached, which was great. And I think it was genuine. So thanks for doing that. Questions from the group. Let's hit Rob with our coaching questions. Maybe it's on how to find a coach. Like Jeremy said in the comments, like not all coaches are created equal. A coach that's going to coach to get you, a sub 3:15 marathon is not the coach maybe for something else. So, Rob, do you have any thoughts on like alignment or match?
Yeah, and I think part of why I put up that 2x2 matrix is like sometimes people think they're getting a coach, but they're actually getting a consultant. And sometimes, like, frankly, you need a therapist and not something else, right? It's like if you got some stuff that's there, like I love how much people are talking about mental health these days. And, I've got a therapist and both for my family, like, so for me, there's no shame. It's like, it starts with being really clear with yourself of what you are looking for and what you need, right? And I think that 2x2, if you keep it in mind, and the next piece is like, I'm not one on big giving advice, but that's because I wear the coaching hat a lot, right? So my first thing is like, what are you looking for? And if you need somebody to help give you advice, go to the left side of the 2x2. And if you really want to grow, like financial advisors, I think is a good way to think about it, right? I don't want somebody managing my money that isn't doing well themselves, right? So like if a coach doesn't have a coach, like maybe a good indication, like they're in it to make money or like don't believe in the process. So, and trial and error, right? Find somebody that's a good fit. That's my piece of advice is like, if you want some advice is try people, coach yourself,
Yeah.
work with a spouse.
I have a question. I was trying to find the raise hand icon, but I couldn't. Can I just belt
Go for
out?
it. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Robert, great session. And I guess the question is, regardless of the quadrant, it starts with a person realizing that he or she needs to change. But what about somebody, whether it's an entrepreneur or somebody close you work with, granted that we're not judging and they may be in a different situation, but there are certain situations where this person needs to change, but that person does not realize that he needs to change. And so like they don't even come to the table with that coachable, teachable kind of a mindset. Do you leave them alone? Do you do something about it to, generate that need to change?
Yeah, that's a good question and a tough one to answer. I've worked with a lot of not coachable people through incubators, through investments, right? In fact, I changed part of our investment fund's thesis and had a coaching score as part of it because working with those folks, although they can produce great results sometimes, like is really difficult and I didn't prefer it. So, one of those slides I had, it said, if you're happy with where you're at, you don't need a coach. Um, you know, at some point, lots of founders get pushed out of their own companies because, they're not on the same page as the board. So Sam
Yeah.
Altman almost got himself into some trouble that he backed back out of, but
Yeah.
that's a tough one. And it wouldn't be the first time that a founder
Yeah.
isn't part of the company that they were part of after they raised money. So
Yeah.
if you're happy with where you're at, you don't need help, like coaching and therapy is probably not for you. Consultants might be.
Yeah, it's just that unfortunately, a lot of them just kind of lived in their self illusion until too late. So anyway,
Yeah.
thank you.
So pain usually drives it, right? When do people
Right.
want to
That's
change? It's
totally
like you
true.
got to give them the
That is
space and
true.
support, and then like when it's painful enough, and they get pushed out, right? I actually had somebody reach out to me yesterday. He's leaving his company after 10 years, and he's talked about getting coaching, and until it got painful enough, he said, "I'm leaving," and now it's painful, and now he's open to it, right? So you kind of got to give people the space. That's what I love about coaching is like meeting people where they're at, like nobody's wrong, everybody's fine. Like if it's working for you, like good for you, right? And if you need help, there's people here to help.
It's like Ryan's got his hand up. Ryan, you want to just come off mute and ask Rob?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm one of the people that is open to asking for help, but sometimes it becomes overwhelming about where to go from help. I mean, there's just so many resources and information out there now that, and you kind of touched on this with the trial and error thing, but you know, I've had therapists, and I've had coaches, and I've had consultants, and I've had mentors, and I've had, you know, lots of things, and sometimes a lot of it's been good advice, or good help. Sometimes it hasn't been, or sometimes I hit a wall with one. My marriage therapist when I was married wasn't helpful. For example, I think she did more harm to our marriage than otherwise, right? And I wish that I would have known that or realized that earlier, and moved on. I've also had consultants that were helpful to a certain point, but then kind of hit a ceiling with them. Can you talk to that a little bit more about how to know, you know, how to navigate some of those complexities of knowing when you're getting good advice, when you're not? I mean, getting a coach is part of it, or getting help is part of it, but then making sure that help is actually what I need or is best for me and my situation is a whole nother animal.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Ryan. And part of why I like my framework, obviously, I've got a cognitive bias related to it, but and why you don't need a coach to use this process. But if you map, measure, and manage, which not most people either map or they manage, a lot of people skip the measure part. So, right, like for your meeting, like what's a successful meeting? For your marriage therapist, like how would you measure success? Same thing with a coach or anybody else, consultants, right? So a lot of times it's, at least for me, is following the process, which is being really clear about where you are, where you want to be, how you can measure it, and then check in, right? I don't know any other way to do it because it's an experiential learning process, right? It's like we learn by doing. That's why I love startups and working with the SVS guys, and why I've been in this space is you learn by doing, and you have to iterate a lot. We fall down. This is kind of like the resilience muscle we build. And so, although it's not a great answer because there's no silver bullet, like the work is the silver bullet, right? It's like focusing on it, putting energy and effort into it is like part of the value of coaching, right? It's not
Rob,
the answer.
what
Go ahead,
tools
Taylor.
do you use to measure? You said something really profound to me there about like measuring and managing, etc. And a lot of people don't measure. What tools do you use to measure, and what are the things that you are typically seeing be most effective in what you measure?
Yeah. I've used OKRs for a long time. They got popularized in the tech world. Andy Grove at Intel kind of pioneered it back in the late 80s, and got when it hit Google and Yahoo, it kind of blew up. I'm a big fan because it's very measurement focused. I'm thinking about writing a book or like a short course to help people understand how to measure better. There's a great book called Measure What Matters by John Doerr, and he's also big into the OKR. He's Kleiner Perkins and brought it over, and he actually learned it from Andy Grove and is the one that taught it to Google. So Measure What Matters, I think, is a good one. Traction, EOS, I think, is a good one. And I think really to make really powerful things to measure, you have to start at the map, which is like being really clear with where you are and where you're trying to go, and knowing the difference between leading and lagging and having some of both, right? So like OKRs work really well because the objectives is like the lagging indicators, lose weight, and the key results are the leading indicators. Run 5 miles, drink more water, do these things, right? Do you have to hit all those to lose weight? No, not necessarily, but if you do a bunch of them, will you? Probably. So I'm definitely biased that way, but OKRs and Measure What Matters is where I'd start.
Any last question for Rob?
Thanks for that answer, Rob. That was really helpful.
Rob, what's the best way to connect?
LinkedIn. I've got a draft unstucker.com website. So working on a few tweaks, but I'm going to give away this map measure manage thing. So anybody that wants a free worksheet so you can coach yourself, I promised Anna and Taylor I'd give one out. So you can put a comment in the notes here, and I'll send you one. It'll be on my website, so give me another week or two, and you can just hop back on there and download it for free at any point. But yeah, LinkedIn,
Awesome.
probably a good way.
Very cool.
Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate the space to run an experiment and share some of the stuff. So David, I really appreciate you taking the leap with me. So thank you very much. And Taylor, I appreciate you taking me up on the offer to build in public. So thanks everybody.
Very cool. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everybody.
Love it. Thanks, Rob.
See you next week.
Happy Tuesday.